Hello students, welcome back to Wikipedia Word Videos. My topic for the presentation is third section of the chapter Kingdom Plantae. In this section of the video, we will be discussing about the Pteridophytes. The Pteridophytes means feather plants, means plants with feather-like fronds or ferns. They are flowerless, they are seedless, they are spore-producing vascular plants which have successfully invaded the land. Students, what do you picture when you think of ancient forest scraps or even modern forests? It's hard to think of a forest without a lush green abundance of fern, right? But what makes fern and their relatives so special? The group Pteridophyte. Okay, the wing plants or the feather plants, because pteron means feather and phyton means plants. So pteridophytes are feather plants or wing plants. It is a diverse bunch of related plants. At one point, Pteridophyta was considered its own phylum, although now they are considered a group of disseparate relatives with separate common ancestors. That makes Pteridophyta a paraphyletic group, one containing many phyla, right? So this group, that is Pteridophyta, it includes ferns, horsetail, club mosses, spike mosses and quillworts. Okay, so students, when first vascular plants successfully rooted themselves into early earth soil 400 million years ago, they looked a little like pteridophytes, okay, which is this. And vascular plants, they are the plants that have food transporting phloem and water transporting xylem tissue, and most pteridophytes, they have vascular tissue in their stem and root. Please note that pteridophyte, they are seedless, they are flowerless, and they are seedless plants. That means they have to pass on their genes to their next generation without using cones or fruit or any other form of seed. And instead of seed, students, fern, they produce spore capsules or sporangia on the other side of their green leaf or on specialized non-green leaves such as sporophytes. So this was an overview of a pteridophyte. Pteron is a word that means feather and phyton means plants. So pteridophyte, they mean that plant with feather-like or wing-like fronds or ferns. They are flowerless, they are seedless, they are spore producing vascular plants which have successfully invaded the land. They are seedless vascular plants which contain vascular tissue but do not produce seeds. They are involved in transportation of fluid because they are vascular plants. So transportation of fluid can take place, and the reproduction process is carried by spores. See, this is a spore, this is one sorus, this is one sporangium, and this is inducem. Okay, now we'll talk about the habitat of pteridophyte students. The plant of pteridophytes, they are mostly terrestrial. They prefer shady habitats, okay, and they have sporophytic plant body. Now we'll talk about the growth. To be more precise, apical growth. The pteridophyte generally possesses a single apical cell with 3 cutting faces in the shoot apex. Okay. Now we'll talk about the characteristics of pteridophyte. Students, pteridophytes, they include horsetails and ferns. Evolutionary, they are first terrestrial plants to possess vascular tissue such as xylem and phloem. I repeat, pteridophytes are the first terrestrial plant to possess vascular tissue. And which are those? Xylem and phloem. These two are the conducting tissues. Xylem, it conducts water and mineral, and phloem, it conducts food material. To be more precise, sucrose. Okay. Pteridophytes, they are found in cool, damp, shady area, though some may flourish well in sandy soil condition. And in pteridophytes, the main plant body is sporophyte, which is differentiated into true root, stem, and leaf. And these organs they possess well differentiated vascular tissue. The leaf in pteridophyte they are small, which are called as microphyls, as in Selaginellia. Okay, and in case of ferns, it is very large. The leaves are very large, and they are called as macrophylls. Okay. See, as in case of Selaginellia, the leaves they are very small in nature. That's why it is called as microphylls. And in case of fern, they are large and they are called as macrophylls. Okay. So this was about the characteristic of Pteridophyta. The sporophyte they bear sporangia. Okay. See, this is the sporangia which contains many spores that are subtended by leaf-like appendages which is called as sporophylls. Okay. And in some cases, sporophylls may form distinct compact structure which is called as strobili, or it is also called as cone. I'll show you later what strobili is, but for the time being, just know that the sporophyte they bear sporangia and they are subtended by leaf-like appendages, which is called as sporophylls. Okay. And in some cases, sporophylls may form distinct compact structure, and that forms strobili, or it is also called as cone. This can be seen in Selaginella and Equisetum. The sporangia they produce spores by meiosis in spore mother cell, and the spore they germinate to give rise to inconspicuous small but multicellular free living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid thalloid gametophyte which is called as prothallus. See, this is the adult sporophyte. This is the leaf of a young sporophyte, then it gets converted into adult sporophyte. This is the sorus. See, these brown ones are sorus which are arranged on the leaf, and sorus has many sporangium which has many spores present inside it, and then it forms gametophyte which is prothallium. Okay. So spores they germinate to give rise to inconspicuous small but multicellular free living mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophyte which is called as prothallium. Okay. Then it gives rise to antheridium sperm and archegonium which is female reproductive organ. So this is the egg. So this sperm it enters the egg or archegonium to produce embryo. Okay. This is the life cycle of a sperm to produce embryo, and then finally or ultimately it just sprout out or it grows in the shady places to give rise this adult sporophyte. Okay, so this cycle goes on and on. So these gametophyte they require cool, damp and shady places to grow. Because of this specific restricted requirement and the need for water for fertilization, that's why they grow in cool and damp area, because they need water for fertilization, and spread of living pteridophyte is limited and restricted to narrow geographical region. Okay, I hope it is now clear to you. So let's talk about the reproduction in pteridophytes. The sporophyte they show asexual reproduction and produce spores by meiosis, from which gametophyte develops. I repeat, from sporophyte gametophyte develops, and gametophyte is haploid in case of pteridophytes. They are recessive but independent and they reproduce sexually. Product of sexual reproduction is zygote that produces diploid sporophyte. Okay, and spores they are produced in a special multicellular structure which is called as sporangia, and sporangia they are produced by leaf-like appendages which is called as sporophylls. I hope it is clear to you now. And in some cases it is seen that sporophylls they may form distinct compact structure which is called as strobili or cone. This can be seen in Selaginella and Equisetum. The sporangia they produce spores by meiosis in spore mother cells. And then that spore it germinate to give rise to inconspicuous, small but multicellular free living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophytes, which is called as prothallus. See students, this is the developing sporophyte and this is the mature sporophyte. Then it undergoes meiosis to produce spores. Then spores undergoes mitosis to produce gametophyte, which is called as prothallus. And this prothallus it produces male gametes, antheridium and archegonium, that is female gamete. Then they both fuse or they get united or they fertilize each other to develop sporophyte. And then this cycle goes on and on and on to produce mature sporophyte. And please note that spores they are produced in a special multicellular structure which is called as sporangia. And sporangia they are produced by leaf-like appendages which is called as sporophylls. Okay. And in some cases sporophylls they may form distinct compact structure which is called as strobili or cone. I'll be showing you what cone is, but for the time being just know that this is how it goes. These gametophyte they require cool, damp and shady places to grow. The gametophyte they bear male and female sex organ which is called as antheridium and archegonium respectively. Water is required for transfer of antherozoids. The male gamete released from antheridia to the mouth of archegonium, that is female reproductive organ, and antheridia is male reproductive organ. So water is required for the transfer of antherozoids, that is male gamete released from antheridium to the mouth of archegonium, that is female reproductive organ. Then fusion of male gamete with egg present in archegonium takes place and that results in the formation of zygote. I hope it is now clear to you. And then zygote thereafter it produces multicellular well differentiated sporophyte which is matured, which is dominant phase of pteridophytes. So what's the dominant phase of pteridophytes? Sporophyte. And in majority of pteridophyte all the spores are of similar kinds. Such plants are called as homosporous. Okay, and genera like Selaginella, Salvinia which produce two kind of spores, that is macrospores and microspores which are the smaller spores. They are known as heterosporous. So this is the life cycle of heterosporous. The megaspore and microspore they germinate and give rise to female and male gametophytes respectively. The female gametophyte in these plants they are retained on parent sporophyte for variable period and the development of zygote into young embryos takes place within female gametophyte. So see students, it's like this is the diploid state. It produces a sporocarp which is again diploid. Then it forms megasporangium which is female reproductive part to give rise megaspore mother cell. Then it gives megaspores which is haploid. Then it finally give rise to female gametophyte which is again haploid. Then it undergoes or you can say it takes place in archegonium which is a female reproductive organ to produce egg which is haploid. Then this cycle is completed. Okay, now sporocarp it produces microsporangium which give rise to male reproductive organ, that is microspore mother cell which give rise to microspore which is haploid in number, that's why it is N. And it produces male gametophyte to produce antheridium which is present in antherozoid which is again haploid. So these two, egg and antherozoid, they unite together or they fertilize each other to produce zygote and embryo, and finally a diploid sporophyte plant is formed. Okay, so this was all about it. The gametophyte, they bear male and female sex organ, which is called as antheridia and archegonia respectively, and water is required for transfer of anthrazoid, the male gamete released from antheridia to the mouth of archegonium, and fusion of male gamete with egg present in the archegonium, they result in the formation of zygote, as I've just shown you, and from zygote embryo is formed. Okay, so this is the life cycle of pteridophytes, and that embryo, or you can say the zygote, thereafter it produces a multicellular well differentiated sporophyte, which is a dominant phase of pteridophytes. And in majority of pteridophytes, all spores are of similar kind. Such plants, they are called as homosporous, and if they are of two types, then that is called as heterosporous. Okay, I hope it is clear to you now. Now, genera like Selaginella and Salvinia, which produce two kinds of spores, macro and microspores, they are known as heterosporous. As I have just shown you that this is Selaginella, which is heterosporous. That means it has or it produces two kinds of spores such as macro and microspores. So that's why they are called as heterosporous. Which two kinds of spores? Megasporangia and microsporangia. Microsporangia, they are small spores, and megasporangia, they are larger spores. So they are called as heterosporous. The megaspores and microspores, they germinate and they give rise to female and male gametophyte respectively. The female gametophyte, in these plants, they are retained on parent sporophytes for variable period, and the development of zygote into young embryo, they take place within female gametophyte. Okay, this event is a precursor to the seed habit, which is considered an important step in evolution. See, this is a sporophyte. It produces sporangium, then it produces spores to produce gametophyte, two types of gametophyte, antheridium and archegonium. Archegonium, it produces egg, and antheridium, it produces sperm. And sperm and egg, they unite together to form zygote, and then it produces embryo sporophyte, which develops or which eventually develops into a mature sporophyte. So this event, you can say it is a precursor to the seed habit, which is considered an important step in evolution. Okay, I hope reproduction in pteridophyte is clear to you now. Affinities of pteridophytes. The pteridophytes, they occupy an intermediate place between bryophyte and spermatophyte. They represent affinities with both the groups. So first we'll study about the similarities of pteridophyte with bryophytes. So both have terrestrial mode of life, and water is indispensable for the process of fertilization. That means water is must for the fertilization to take place. And male gametes, they are flagellated. That means antheridium produces sperm, and that is flagellated. Okay, and the structure and ontogeny of sex organ, that is antheridium and archegonium, is based on similar pattern. Both the groups, they have definite alternation of sporophytic and gametophytic generation. That means alternation of life cycle takes place, that is sporophytic and gametophytic generation. Sexual reproduction is of oogamous type. Zygote, it is retained within the venter of archegonium to form embryo. Sex organs, they are surrounded by sterile jacket, and the young sporophyte is partially or wholly dependent on gametophyte for nourishment. So these are the similarities of pteridophytes with bryophyte. Now we'll talk about the similarities with spermatophytes. So pteridophytes and spermatophytes, in both the cases, sporophytic plant body is large, independently existing and dominant phase of life cycle. The plant body, it is differentiated into true stem, leaf and true roots. Vascular tissue is present in both pteridophytes and spermatophytes. Spores, they are produced inside sporangia in both pteridophytes and spermatophytes. Presence of distinct alternation of generation, and process of photosynthesis is mainly confined to leaves. Stomata are present on leaves. Okay, I hope it is clear to you now. Students, please note that apart from normal way of reproduction, pteridophytes, they also sometimes show following methods such as apogamy and apospory. So what is apogamy? It is the development of a sporophyte without the fusion of male and female gamete. So that is called as apogamy, and it arises directly from gametophyte. Here the sporophyte is haploid. And what is apospory, students? It is the development of gametophyte from any cell of the sporophyte other than haploid spores, and such gametophyte, it is diploid in nature, unlike apogamy. Okay, so I hope it is clear to you now that apart from the way of normal way of reproduction in pteridophytes sometimes show two methods such as apogamy and apospory, wherein development of a sporophyte takes place without the fusion of male and female gamete. And in apospory, it is the development of gametophyte from any cell of the sporophyte other than haploid spores. Okay, so Pteridophyta has four classes: Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida, and Pteropsida. Psilopsida example is Psilotum, and Lycopsida example is Selaginella and Lycopodium. Example of Sphenopsida is Equisetum, and example of Pteropsida is Pteris, Dryopteris, and Adiantum. Okay, so these are the four classes of pteridophytes: Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida, and Pteropsida. Now we'll be studying silent features of each of the subphyla in detail. Okay, so first is Psilopsida. These are oldest known vascular plants, most of them except Psilotum and Themipteris, they are fossils. So these are the oldest known vascular plants. Plant body is relatively less differentiated. That means you cannot distinguish shoot system. Roots, they are completely absent. They, instead of dichotomously branched rhizome is present, and aerial axis is either naked or have small spirally arranged leaves. See, all these leaves, they are spirally arranged. Sporangia, they are colline, that means directly borne on the axis or stem. Okay, so these yellow ones are the sporangia. They are colline, or they are directly borne on the axis or stem. They are lateral or terminal in position. And examples of Psilopsida is Psilotum and Mesteris. Okay, so these are the two examples of Psilopsida. Now we'll study about the another subphyla, and that is Lycopsida, students. Plant body, it is differentiated into root, stem, and leaf. Leaves, they are very small, so that's why they are called as microphylous. If they are large, then they are called as macrophylous. But here in case of Lycopsida, leaves, they are very small, that's why it is called as microphylous, with a single unbranched vein. Okay, vein is not clearly visible here, but it has one vein. And the sporangia, they develop in the exile of a sporophyll. See, this is the sporophyll, and these four are the strobili. One strobili, second, third, this way it is. And the sporophyll generally form compact strobili. So this is one strobili. This is one strobili, and these are the four strobili that forms a compact mass, and it is seen in Lycopodium and Selaginella. Okay, now we'll talk about the third subphyla, and that is Sphenopsida. Okay, so stem is differentiated into nodes and internodes. See, this is the node, and the distance between two nodes is internode. So leaf, they are microphylous, that means they are very small. They are present in a hole at each node. See, at each node it is forming a hole like a structure. And sporangia, they are born on sporangiophores, which form compact cone at the apex of fertile branches, and it is seen in equisetum. Okay, so example of Snaphopsida is equisetum. Okay, now the fourth phyla or fourth subphyla is Pteropsida, wherein plant body is well differentiated into root, stem and leaf. Leaf are megaphylous, that means they are very large. They are pinnately compound. I have already taught you about the type of a leaf in the chapter Anatomy of Flowering Plant. You can refer to that for better understanding. So leaf, they are megaphylous, they are pinnately compound, and sporangia develop on the ventral surface of sporophylls, usually aggregated into sori. So these are sori, students. This is the cluster of sporangia in fern, and that is called as sori. And it is seen in Dryopteris, Pteris, Pteridium and Polypodium. Okay, so these four were the subphyla of pteridophytes. Now we'll be studying about the club moss in detail. Club moss is also known as Selaginella. It is also called as spike moss. Selaginella, it is commonly called as little club moss or spike moss, and Selaginella, it is mainly found in damp shaded places. Plant body, it is sporophytic, which is diploid 2n, which is an evergreen and delicate herb having adventitious root. That means root which can arise from aerial part of plant body such as leaves, so they are called as adventitious roots. And the plant that show great variation in their morphology, some species they are prostrate, they grow upon one surface to another, and some are suberect, and others they are climbers. So the stem, it is covered with full or 4 rows of a small leaf. Out of these 2 rows, they are of a smaller leaf and 2 of larger leaf. Species with dimorphic leaves such as S. Corretiana, S. helvetica, that is S is Selaginella, okay, and so on. Reproduction takes place by vegetative and sexual means by spores method. Okay, see, this is Strobilus. From sporophyte, this cycle goes on to form megasporangia and microsporangia. Then it forms microsporophyll and megasporophyll respectively to produce gametophytes. Okay, and then fertilization takes place to form zygote and finally embryo, and then eventually it forms a mature sporophyte. Okay, so this is how reproduction, fertilization takes place in Selaginella, which is commonly called as little club moss or spike moss, which is found mainly in damp shaded places. So vegetative reproduction, it is of rare occurrence, students, and it may take place by following methods such as fragmentation, by resting buds, by tubers and by apogamy. Okay, fragmentation, it occurs during very humid condition, and some branches they act as adventitious branches which get separated from plant and it give rise to a new Selaginella plant, and it is seen in Selaginella rupestris. Okay, so this takes place in fragmentation in very humid condition. Then by resting bud, vegetative reproduction in Selaginella can take place by resting bud too. In some cases, terminal leaf they get overlapped and they become fleshy and they form resting bud, which are means of vegetative reproduction. That is, in case of Selaginella, chrysocollus. Okay, and vegetative reproduction in Selaginella can also be taken place by tubers. Some branches they penetrate into substratum or ground, and at terminal end they swell to form tubers which give rise to new plant. Then fourth is apogamy. In some cases, development of a sporophyte they occur directly from gametophyte without intervention of sex organ, which is called as apogamy, and such plants they are genetically haploid. Okay, so this was 4 types through which vegetative reproduction takes place in Selaginella, which is commonly called as club moss. Then sexual reproduction takes place. This is the strobilus. Okay, the reproductive structure in Selaginella is strobilus, which is this. So this is the reproductive structure of Selaginella, which is also called as a spike. It is a sessile structure and it develops at the terminal end of a branch, and its length, it varies from 1/4 of an inch to 2-3 inches in different species, and the sporangia are of two types, megasporangia and microsporangia. Megasporangia, they are born on megasporophylls. Obviously it is a female reproductive organ, so megasporangia, they are born on megasporophylls. Megasporangia, it is pale greenish and it contains chalky white, yellow or orange megaspores. And megasporangium, they are four-lobed structure with two-layered jacket, one layer of tapetum and large number of microspore mother cell. However, only one megaspore mother cell is functional here, and after meiosis it produces 4 megaspores, out of which 1 to 3 may get degenerated. Now let's talk about the microsporangia. They are born on microsporophylls that has large number of small spores. Thus, Selaginella is heterosporous. But if it contains only one type of spore, then that is called as homosporous. Microsporangium, it is pale yellow, oval or spherical body with two-layered jacket, one layered tapetum and number of microspore mother cells that undergo meiosis, and it forms haploid microspores. The main body of microsporangia, it consists of a wall having two layers inside which are present numerous small microspores, which are around 400 to 2000. Now we'll talk about the fern students. Fern plant is sporophytic with an underground rhizomatous stem, large aerial leaf or fronds and adventitious root. Rhizome is sparingly branched in Diopteris plant, moderately branched in Pteris plant and Adiantum plant. Adiantum is commonly called as maidenhair fern or walking fern because it propagates vegetatively by its leaf tips, and they profusely branched in Pteridium plant. The younger leaf is called as a spring from apex downward, which is called as circinate venation. And younger part of a leaf and a rhizome, they are surrounded by brown hairy structure which is called as scale or ramenta. Leaf base are persistent. Vegetative reproduction can occur through fragmentation or rhizome and adventitious bud, and these on separation give rise to new fern plant. Please note that. And sexual reproduction, it takes place through spores. Spores, they are born in sporangia, and the spores, they are of one kind only. So that's why it is called as homosporous. When leaf are mature, they bear group of sori. Okay, sori is what? It is a cluster of sorus on the undersurface of fertile pinnae, and such fronds, they are called as sporophylls. So this is the adult fern plant which has rhizome. The leaf of a fern are called as fronds. So fronds are nothing, they are the leaf of fern plant, and the spore cases can be found underneath the frond. That means underneath the leaf of a fern plant, spores can be seen, and the spore, these are the spore cases. Okay, this is the zoom view of a spore cases. When they are dried, the spore cases split open and the spores, they are released and they get dispersed through wind, and then germination takes place in the substratum, and finally growth of prothallus takes place, and a young fern plant growing from the prothallus is seen that develops into adult fern plant eventually. Okay, I hope it is clear to you now. It is very easy. Now we'll talk about the economic importance of fern, students. Obviously it has ornamental value. Many ferns, they are grown as ornamental plants in gardens of for their large show and graceful foliage, because it has a huge number of foliage, that is leaves. So for show and graceful foliage, many ferns, they are grown as ornamental plants in the garden for their large show. A species of Lycopodium is used as ornamental plant. Selaginella, Anemia, and Cythea. So these are the species which are used as ornamental plants. Then they are used as medicines also, such as antihelminthic drug. It the drug is made from fern, which is used against the helminths diseases. So that's why it is called as antihelminthic drug, which is obtained from rhizome and the petiole of a fern Diopteris. It is the name of a plant. Lycopodium clavatum is used in skin diseases. So that's another crucial economic importance of fern. Then Equisetum urbanceae, it has diuretic properties. Then another crucial importance of fern is that sporocarps of Marsilia, they are rich source of starch and they are used by tribal for their nutritive value. And soil conservation, plant like Selaginella, they are useful in soil conservation. So these four are the economic importance of ferns, that they are used as ornamental value, they are used as medicines, they are used as food because they are the rich source of starch and used by tribals for their nutritive value, and it is used in soil conservation. Okay, so this was all about it. In my next section of the presentation, we'll be studying about the gymnosperms and angiosperms. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching Wikipedia word videos. Thank you.